Story 1. My husband died unexpectedly. My fire went out and filled me with depression. I'm coming up on 4 years, and I'm still stuck.
I'm sorry for your loss. My wife passed away 4 years ago, too. I've gone through the same thing, feeling stuck as well. It took a lot for me to finally ask my doctor to prescribe an antidepressant. It's not perfect, but it's working.
Same boat-ish. My fiancé died 2 years ago. It's hard to give a fuck about anything. I persist though, and there's still joy in life, even if most things don't matter. Sorry that happened to you.
I hope you find your way back to some light and that you have people in your life to hold candles to light the way until you do. So much love to you.
Story 2. Consistent stress over the last 3 years. I think it's recently started to really catch up to me.
I think this was the biggest eye-opener of adulthood. In the beginning, there's a fire. Through effort, you put it out. At some point, there's another fire, and you deal with it. Then a point comes where a fire happens, and the last one wasn't put out yet. You manage. After some time, it's just a lot of fires, and you know they'll never all be gone simultaneously. You just live with them as part of daily life. That realization is when the fire inside you dies out.
Stress is a killer. I talked to a therapist for the first time a few months ago and got on some anti-anxiety meds. Now I realize I've been terribly stressed for like the last 30 years. I feel almost functional now.
I am reminded of the meme of the dog sitting there, holding his coffee, while everything burns all around him. This is fine. He is an adult spirit animal, in a way.
Story 3. There was a hostile takeover of my unit at work that completely upended my reporting structure. After 6 months, it changed again, and my position was slightly demoted. During all of this time, my team's location never changed, what we did never changed, and who we did our work with never changed. The only difference is who I give monthly updates to. Nobody cared about my input, and then would present it as their own ideas months later. I just decided, after 4 years of no raises and all of this garbage, and massive amounts of success in that time, that I wasn't going to give anymore. So I do my job and nothing more. I was always a 120% person, and people are starting to realize what just me giving baseline means.
Man, I could have written this. In some ways, it's nice to just do the bare minimum and not put my heart and soul into the job anymore. But mostly it is depressing. It has completely wrecked my professional confidence and self-image.
I was in a similar situation. The company got bought. New management came in and fucked all our processes and procedures up, adding tons of extra hours to do the exact same thing. They added bureaucracy and made us all go from 40 hours to 60 plus with no additional pay. All concerns were ignored. My boss was promoted, and we were told not to apply, as the new company wanted to seek external candidates. The lady they brought in was just the worst human being I've ever worked with or for. She was incredibly nitpicky and micromanaged everything. I brought up concerns about my salary not being in line with market pay, especially in the face of added responsibility, which were never given any actual review. I was really trying to make something of myself there, but COVID fucked it all up. Stock dipped, and management sold us off to a conglomerate. 4 years of uncertainty and bad management with no opportunities for growth just killed my drive. We now had daily meetings where nothing important ever happened, and the team was usually berated for underperforming to her unrealistic wants and needs. Our job was not really team-oriented. People all had their own responsibilities, and we were damn good at making it happen. In the past, there were very few meetings, and we used our on-the-clock time to do our work. My calendar kept filling up with team meetings mostly because management wanted to complain about work not getting done, and work was not getting done because of all the added meetings. Meetings were consistently added outside of my normal working hours and marked as mandatory. I'd have to bring my laptop to my kids' sports practices and games to finish up all the extra work, and one day, my son left his practice to come up to me and ask me why I wasn't paying attention to his practice, and it fucking broke my heart. Everything was wearing on me hard. I just couldn't take it anymore. And one day my boss pushed the wrong button in a meeting. I had had enough and put in 2 weeks' notice. Now I'm 3 months into being unemployed, and I'm really struggling with whether I made the right decision or not. I really think I should have gotten something else lined up before I jumped ship, but I'm hopeful I will find something soon at the appropriate pay range, and in hindsight, it will have been the right decision. But right now, I'm definitely in a rut.
I'm literally in the same boat right now. It's horrible. I'm really sorry you're having to endure this. I don't think people really understand how much grief you carry when a safe boss departs and your routine and structure get upended against your will. I've literally cried because my boss is gone from my reporting structure. He still sits behind me in his new sideways role, and I can't turn and get his input on what I'm doing. Next level up is where I'm reporting now, to a hated micromanager. The shift, the sudden influx of new and useless reporting requirements, is debilitating, and it's taking away from our core work. Micromanager cronies have started to appear in new roles, and it's like two companies are now running at once. One with people who care about our products and customers, all 120% people, who know and understand how rare what we used to have was. Pleasant and capable people who had pride in what they did every day, 7 years of 10% growth year on year, unheard of. And another side now, people whose only job it is to analyze data and produce reports, who need 10 days notice to even get a meeting slot to review an issue. The new executives have forced me to be a baseline person. And you know what? That's okay. They will find out soon enough when the numbers tumble and customers walk away. Just a few months of not pushing, and sales are already down about 13% and accelerating. But as my old boss says, not your barbecue. Let them cook. The proof will be in the pudding.
Story 4. Severe, untreatable depression. Debatable whether the spark ever existed in the first place.
Same friend. The spark's gone. The only saving grace is my job, which pays well and is super flexible. Other than that, life is on autopilot.
I've been suffering from major depressive disorder for over a decade now. My spark is somehow managing to function through a combination of healthy and unhealthy coping methods.
Treatment-resistant major depressive disorder here. Several years ago, my healthcare team started discussing electroconvulsive therapy. I considered it, then noped out. Things got worse and worse, with no hope in sight, until I came across an article about treating major depressive disorder with magic mushrooms. I researched it, debated with myself for a while, and took the plunge. The day after my first trip was like waking up into a new life. I mean, there was a bunch of really hard work ahead of me, but I could see what needed to change and was able to tackle it and make the changes. 6 years on, and I'm still mostly free of depression, although I think it's time for a booster dose, or 3. It's not for everyone, but it changed me massively. It saved my life. As an aside, tripping was also the most profound and spiritual experience I've ever had. There literally are no words that can describe it.
Story 5. Death of a parent, followed shortly by the end of my 17-year marriage. I used to be funny.
Flowers make seeds that grow back into flowers. On their own, seeds are quite boring. Inert, just a little bundle of genetic potential. A little bit of dirt, a little bit of water, some light. That boring little seed is a flower again. You were a flower. Now you're a seed. Find your dirt, water, and light.
I'm not going through it quite as hard as you are, but one of my parents almost died, and I gave up everything to care for them. 6 months in the hospital, and there's more to the story as well. The crushing reality of life and death has left me kind of broken.
I feel the same.
I used to be funny. Now I'm just serious and somber, and I hate it. Let's hope time heals all, as they say.
I hear you. My mom died in September 2025, and by January I was feeling unwell, putting it down to grief. By May it was confirmed as cancer. I thought the spark had gone, but man alive, it really gets obliterated when the big C and chemotherapy come for you.
Story 6. Having to live with multiple chronic illnesses and the mental health issues that come as part of that.
I'm with you, my friend. I became severely ill when I was 23, and I've pretty much spent about 90% of my life since then bedbound. I used to be ambitious and hardworking, and on the way to a good career. All gone. People just don't understand until they experience it themselves. I wish you all the love I have.
I feel you. Nobody prepares you for the fact that on many days, the mental limitations are much harder than the physical ones. Hang in there, friend.
Story 7. Tried to change careers to something that paid better. Slipped on ice and broke my ankle. Boss was a complete jerk, and when I was finally off light duty, all of a sudden they had a shortage of work at Johnson Controls and let me go. Couldn't find sustainable work in time. Lost my house 17 years into my mortgage after the COVID epidemic. Paid off loans and started renting. All that work for one injury and COVID to just wipe me out. Along with various failed relationships, I'm kinda just done. No kids, depression, and watching civilization crumble while we all sit like frogs in a boiling pot, working for just enough money to do it again next week. But you're free. This system is broken.
I'm so sorry. That sounds awful. But the word part of your comment is spot on. I'm just working to afford my apartment that I can't enjoy because I go to work. It's like one day you wake up and realize, what in the actual fuck am I even doing? What is even existing?
Story 8. Burnout hit hard. Work became endless tasks, no joy left. One day I realized I was just going through the motions. The spark was gone. I took a long break to remember what actually lit me up. You?
Pretty much the same story here. My dream job that I assumed I would retire was sold to private equity investors. I lasted 4 years with that. Depressing to be starting out again at 60 plus.
Story 9. The economic collapse of my country made me and everyone I know live just scraping by to be able to eat, with dirty water and barely any electricity for almost 10 years. Dealing with this burned me out. Even now that I no longer live there, having lost my 20s to that depresses me. Story 10. I found out I was pregnant, and then my best friend abandoned me. My kid's father did too. Then my dad died before my kid was born. I used to be so full of love and empathy for everyone I met. Now I am completely numb, and I hate it so much. I miss feeling things.
Sending you a hug. Hoping you can get through this hard time.
Story 11. My girlfriend of 5 years left me for a guy at work. She and the new guy were both in relationships. They scheduled breaking up with us on the same day, December 23rd. She didn't break up with me though. She just went silent with me, unresponsive, treated me poorly for a long time. She complained about everything and blamed any little thing on me. Finally, after a month of it, I lost my temper and said something like, "Why don't you just go be with the guy at work?" She said okay, was on the phone 5 minutes later, and he came and picked her up from my house for a date the very next day. She took half my house that I bought myself. But I got to keep my dog, which is all I really cared about. It messes me up just saying it out loud. It's been about 7 years, and I haven't dated since. I don't resent women, and I don't think I'd let it affect a new relationship. I just don't want to invest emotionally in anyone anymore. That was my 3rd straight relationship that ended with me being cheated on, and I feel like an idiot. I've never been the jealous type. I don't restrict or ask to know where a girl is. I just trust. I also distance myself immediately from anyone I might feel attracted to while in a relationship. If a girl was flirty with me, I'd just go somewhere else or stop being near her at all. One-night stands and casual sex aren't great for me either. I like sex with someone I know. Someone who knows what I like and who I know what they like. I don't know. I'll probably just keep doing it for some sort of connection. But yeah, I'm kind of emotionally messed up when it comes to relationships.
How did you get half of your house if you weren't married?
Common law marriage laws. In Canada, at the time, living together for 6 months meant you were married. I think they've changed it to 2 years now.
That's not long at all. I'm sorry for your luck. Keep your head up and good things will come.
Story 12. Over 10 years of academics. After seeing my younger siblings and cousins become more financially stable, while my routine never changed, I just someday lost my spark. I'm not so sure my PhD is worth it anymore, to be honest. Yet I'm so close. Just 2 more semesters.
I just got laid off as a professor. I'm currently wondering where the hell to start with life now.
Story 13. I'm an ICU nurse who worked through COVID. I wish I were the same optimistic and hopeful person I was before the pandemic.
I bet it was awful. Thank you for everything.
Story 14. My brother committed suicide 2 weeks after Trump's 2nd inauguration. He was like my twin. My mom wants me not to speak publicly about it, which makes me so angry because my whole life has been family secrets. Family secrets probably contributed to my brother's death as well.
Talk about it. In doing so, you may help someone else. Everyone grieves differently, and your mom has no right to ask that of you. If you need to talk, then talk. I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you. I guess even though I knew it somewhere deep down, I needed to hear that. Secrets are a big thing in my family, but I'm tired of living in other people's shame. I can't omit the way that their secrets became my problem, because they made it that way. They've blocked my joy and my grief, because you can't untell a secret.
Please get some help. The shame isn't yours to bear. It's the others.
Story 15. As a federal worker, it would be DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, the sitting president shitting on us, critical and effective agencies being absolutely gutted, cancellation of any efforts to create an inclusive workplace, also known as DEI or diversity, equity, and inclusion. My coworkers jumping ship and leaving me overworked, an indefinite hiring freeze, politicization of the workplace, absolute morons running critical agencies that keep the United States healthy and running into the ground, working without pay during a long shutdown, being called a parasite, half the nation cheering this on, whatever comes next. The light inside is broken, but I still work.
I don't work for the government, but I absolutely share your sentiment. I do control systems for renewable energy projects, and our industry generally depends a lot on the National Renewable Energy Laboratory and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and such for data and research that is basically essential. And I feel the same hopeless sensation as well, because I see this country currently being led by a bunch of anti-science nutters straight into the toilet. But I do have some degree of hope to foster what fire remains in me. I've taken my rage to LinkedIn, in my case, and constantly hammer away at people spouting nonsense and disinformation. What you quickly realize is there's a lot more of us, intelligent Americans who understand the value of science, research, and so on, than there are of them. It's why Vance is getting booed at the Olympics. But we tend to be quiet, engineering, science types, not the kinds of people giving firebrand hate speeches. That said, I think it's time that we as smart, sciencey types actually go out and bury people in comments and try to take back some of the public forum to get back to reason and goodness. So far, I've had pretty good luck in my LinkedIn raging, aside from fighting with the auto filters on such platforms that refuse to filter obvious hate speech from the goons at the Heritage Foundation, but tag me for being unprofessional for calling someone a liar. I guess I'll encourage you to turn your rage towards those that make a living spouting lies and disinformation and hammer back. Folks like Milo Rossi on YouTube, for example, and DR. Dave Explains do this at some scale. We all need to call out obvious wrongs when we see them, to not let others burn down what we're working so hard to create.
As a United States federal worker, for me, it's that I now feel I have wasted over 20 years. I have wasted my entire adult working life, working towards what I now realize was a fantasy or a fairy tale. I am in one of those professions which requires an advanced degree and which gets paid a lot less than I would have been making in the private sector. I now realize that I was working for all of it to end in a burning pile of shit, and it was for nothing. I should have just done the money grab and spent my life working in the private sector, hoarding cash, rather than throwing in with some naive idea of helping the country. I have wasted a quarter century of work for nothing.
Story 16. I'm tired, boss. Tired of being on the road. Lonely as a sparrow in the rain. Tired of not ever having me a buddy to be with, or tell me where we're coming from or going to or why. Mostly I'm tired of people being ugly to each other. Story 17. Realizing that the world we built could have been different. A world where we valued art and science, teaching and understanding people. The amount of knowledge passed between cultures, bringing us to understand our world and space. Instead, we valued power, resources, and money over people, destroying and burning everything that was not what people deemed correct. We chose to pass generations of trauma. We caused destruction to identities and peoples. Some of this over a tablet or book. I'm tired. I'm tired of being aware of this. Tired of knowing how people perceive me, and some would just see me as a resource because of what organs I have. I'm tired. I'm tired of letting my guard down and then being hurt. I'm tired of hurting others because of my unresolved feelings and the pain passed to me. I live with the pain I caused others, the damage I inflicted because of ignorance and repression. I am tired, but also pissed at the same time. I just want to protect those close to me.
I've found that if you choose to be good, life bundles you with other people who made the same choice. Don't lose hope.
Story 18. A few rounds of abusive relationships back to back, combined with the state of the world over the past few years, depression, health issues, and financial woes. Story 19. Realizing that everything in this life is rigged, and no matter how hard I work or hustle, I'll never reach my goals because I wasn't born on third base. Story 20. Office politics. It became less about the job at hand and more about self-promotion. I couldn't deal with the sense of entitlement among new college grads. Story 21. People I really cared about mistreating me. It feels horrible to feel so small around people you just want to make happy. College, aside from the 2 friends I made, felt like a big waste of time. It made things I enjoyed no longer fun, and I worry that it made me lose the will to create art as often as I used to. Not being able to move out when I wanted to. I get how the economy is, but still, I'm tired of waiting for whoever my roommate will be to be ready. I can't keep living with mom forever. Story 22. When I felt burnout from all of the work I'm doing, and the only thing I've been doing is working. Story 23. Getting way too comfortable. Not with the life that I carefully suffered to build and can be proud of, but with the life I started coping with as a result of failures. A lifetime of futile attempts to achieve financial security, a family, a legacy. Story 24. Perimenopause. Nearly killed me, really. Turns out, combining that with a stressful job, neurodivergence, and a stressful life will absolutely wreck your mental health. Fortunately, I'm doing much better now. Yes, hormone replacement therapy was part of the answer. Story 25. Being a stay-at-home mom. My husband makes too much for state assistance, but we can't afford childcare, so I have to stay home. We live 20 miles out of town, and I have no friends or family nearby. It's very lonely, and every day I'm fighting burnout so I can be the mom my kids need. Story 26. Almost a decade of caring for aging parents. Seeing how twisted and convoluted the system is, knowing they took several steps to legally safeguard, only to have them invalidated. Watching their savings and insurance policies stolen from them. Seeing my dad's face when he was told that using the VA Veterans Affairs would actually be a worse option for him. Then losing dad and having to break the news to mom. The way this country, the USA, treats the elderly and elderly veterans is appalling, reprehensible, and vile. I got a front row seat to watch them realize they lost everything they built in their lives. And that broke me.
Ugh, this broke my heart. It's so disheartening. The richest country in the world. America.
Story 27. A girl slowly, but gradually, completely tore my self-esteem to pieces. I never bounced back from that. Story 28. The first half thus far? Surprisingly, a lack of confidence. Now, still a lack of confidence, but also serious heartbreak. Changed everything about me, and it sucks. Story 29. I didn't lose my spark because I stopped caring. I lost it because I've spent years holding everything together for everyone else. I became the person who fixes problems, sees what's coming before it breaks, absorbs stress so other people don't have to, and keeps moving even when I'm exhausted. Over time, there was no space left for curiosity or creativity. When everything is urgent and nothing is allowed to fall, you stop dreaming and start enduring. Story 30. Extreme loneliness. You would not believe how loved and adored I was around 6+ years ago. I was very passionate about my interests and passionate about my friends. I was funny, lovable, interesting, all these things that people told me were my good qualities. Hell, a lot of people still probably see me as this awesome guy. Maybe partly because I'm so good at wearing a mask. I was part of and even the leader of some really good social circles. But over the years, I realized and I saw that I was practically just passing entertainment. People laugh and smile with me, but their lives went on, and I'm left behind in the dust. For how awesome everyone says I am, I can't even find a partner who'll stay by my side. Everyone else has their partners, settled down, bought a house with their partner, had kids, content in life. Me, I am left wondering, what is the point of my life? I had such a passion for various hobbies. Now I feel nothing when the new manga chapter comes out. I feel nothing when the next expansion of my game is announced. I feel nothing when I hear new music from my favorite artists. I am way less excited to try new foods. I just realize everything is empty, and it all doesn't really mean anything. What is the point of getting excited about anything when, in the end, I will always just end up alone? Story 31. I was diagnosed with a terminal illness. I can no longer work. What kills me is I can't ride my old bike or walk for any significant distance. I used to do 200 to 300 kilometer rides or walk 20 kilometers a day. Story 32. The last 10 years of politics and the stress of watching America take its last gasping breaths. I used to read voraciously. I enjoyed going to art shows, playing video games, camping. Now I just wake up, check my phone to see what today's fresh hell is being forced on us by Trump, go to work, come home, do chores, check my phone again to see what fresh hell Trump is forcing on us, and try to go to bed as early as possible so I don't have to think about it for a few hours. Even when Biden was president, we still had to hear Trump fucking run his mouth every goddamn minute of every goddamn day. It's not going to get better until he dies. And thanks to him having unlimited access to the greatest medical care on the planet, he's not going anywhere for a very long time.
I quit all social media in early 2016. Seeing people that I thought were decent, people I knew, loved, or respected, go all in on Trump was too disheartening. I never watch the news, but I do still read it. I just don't think I'd feel better being ignorant of what's happening. I'm so glad that it worked for you, though. I hope it continues to help.
Story 33. I was being discriminated against at my job. The CEO of the company said to come to him if there was any issue. I went to him, but he immediately told the person who discriminated against me. In the very next meeting with that person, they mentioned the meeting I had with the CEO, then invited human resources to the meeting, and openly said they were retaliating against me by demoting my title and removing responsibilities from my job. All the while, the human resources person was smiling from ear to ear. I got a new job, and in the first week, I had to take discrimination training. The description in the training was almost exactly what happened to me. Story 34. When I graduated from college, a deep, dark aura surrounded me. I realized how unprepared I was for the real world and how hard life is. My parents, although they meant well, had kept me so sheltered. Everything up until that point was fun and carefree. Hell, life seemed so innocent. Story 35. Being diagnosed with kidney failure and having to do dialysis every night for 9 hours. Add in the setup and takedown, and it's easily 10 hours per night where I'm attached to the machine. Every night. There have been so many times when I've thought, fuck this. I'm just going to let nature take its course. But my partner is more regimented about this than I am. I know this sounds like, oh, woe is me, but it's draining. I can't be as free and easy as I was. No chance of just packing a bag and going off for a few days. No autonomy about nights out. Other people have worse living situations, I know. But this is my situation. I didn't choose it, and I don't particularly want it. It has drained the joy and optimism out of me. Story 36. Tonight, let's talk about my current job, the job market, the government's blatant corruption, AI taking our jobs, cross-hiring taking your jobs, the cost of rent, and the lack of free time from working full-time. Having a big family and lots of friends is really hard for me to manage. It seems like everyone's in the same boat too. Love you all. Story 37. Life. I was a half-native child, born to a white mother and a native father. A half-breed, if you will. Club feet, born sick with pneumonia, the runt. The oldest of 3. I didn't really experience much negativity until my mother moved us away from our hometown because my father had an affair and fathered my half-brother with my stepmother. No child support, so I grew up poor. But I learned that you just get a little creative when you don't have much. So anything and everything was a toy. The ones I did have, I loved dearly. But they had to stand or I didn't want them. Elementary school was a hoot. I experienced racism and bullshit in there. But I had fun learning to whistle in class. I remember being shut in the supply closet because I couldn't focus and just didn't really do anything in her class. Nobody looked for me or asked where I was, and I was forbidden from crying. My 3rd grade teacher told me I wasn't allowed to cry and that I don't get to cry. I cried anyway. That's about where I'll stop. That was when I learned that life is just fucking cruel and not worth a lot of the people in it. Story 38. I'm feeling like the world isn't what I thought it was, to be honest. Cheating and corruption seem to be encouraged. Bad people are rewarded for being bad, and there's just general selfishness and self-interest in people. I've always said there are good people out there, but sadly, they seem to be well outnumbered these days. Story 39. A prolonged period of carer's fatigue. But now, having spread the caring load around, I'm rediscovering the things I actually like and enjoy doing. Story 40. My 9th layoff in 15 years. Then my other knee started hurting when I walked. It had been my good knee before. My background is elite athletics, and I love dancing. It hit me square in my reason to live. Story 41. Full-time work and school. I used to paint, read for pleasure, write poetry. I want that version of me back. Now I'm worried about escrow, transfer applications, and taxes. Story 42. A divorce so bad that more than one law firm told me they had never worked a case so pointlessly vicious. At times, I was unable to afford food, even with what should have been a comfortable 6-figure salary. All the while, I was being made out to be the villain, when it was just a borderline personality disorder, thieving, gaslighting, emotionally abusive monster using the courts to torment me, funded by her equally evil multimillionaire father. I've recovered and am doing plenty fine now. But realizing that some people truly are evil just sort of rearranged my assumptions about people in general. On the plus side, just today my kid, unprompted, communicated to me that she sees the hypocrisy and lies for what they are. I'm sad that's what she has for a mother, but I'm glad she can start to build her own defenses. Story 43. 38 years of autism. I'm so very tired, and all the social skills, coping methods, and life lessons I have learned over the years are no longer applicable or working in a post-pandemic world. Basically, inside, I feel like a thoroughly scraped jar of peanut butter. Story 44. A friend's suicide. This thread is why you should never intentionally dim anyone's spark. They could be faking it. They could have gone through hell to earn it. You never know. Story 45. Intense self-hatred that sabotages any attempt to gain mastery over anything I try. Story 46. Joining the Navy robbed me of all my positive emotions. I was funny, witty, and an all-around good person. Now I just always cry and am an angry, anxious person. I don't like myself. All those positive qualities I had are gone. Story 47. COVID. After being inside for months, I struggled even to want to go out again. It didn't help that all the activities I was a part of and in charge of were canceled and never came back with the same dynamic as before. So why bother making new friends? Why bother finding new projects and activities? Everyone else moved on, but I got stuck inside my head. Story 48. Over 500 applications to several different job fields, over 30 interviews, with replies stating they decided to go with other candidates. What am I supposed to do? It's been 3 years since I graduated with my bachelor's, almost a year since my graduation, and no one is willing to hire me. I have applied for academic advisor and university jobs like what my degree is for, all the way to custodian and overnight stocking. And nothing. I have sold everything of value to keep the lights on, lost my vehicle to repossession, and now I can barely feed my cats that I have had since they were babies, and I am all they know. My spark? Hell, just keeping suicidal thoughts out is hard. Story 49. My husband, who always finds a way to say no or shoot me down when I brainstorm or try to find my hype.
I had to leave mine. It's never going to get better.
Story 50. I busted my ass during undergrad, earning a bachelor's degree in chemistry. I had grants lined up to stay in my lab after graduation. I even turned down a guaranteed PhD spot temporarily to pursue our current research projects, since the grants were supposed to be guaranteed. I worked in the lab full-time during classes and got on a paper. But I graduated right into the Trump presidency, where he slashed research funding for everything science-related. Those grant sources had no more money, including one where I was one of the top 10 applicants in the country. I was unemployed for several months. The job market for chemistry is really bad. Now I work at Chick-fil-A until I find something. I feel like a shell of a human being right now. Extremely hard work got me nowhere, and I burned myself out just to reap zero reward. Story 51. Capitalist exploitation got me 90% of the way there, then all the fascism put me over the top. Story 52. I'm not sure where I'm going in life. I dropped out of my college course to figure out what I actually want to do, and I've been so busy making ends meet that I haven't been able to figure that out. Then my brother's wife left him the week of my wedding, and my entire life over the last 4 months has revolved around him and his kids. The final straw has been him throwing us, the family, away the moment his wife came back into his life. She hasn't even stopped seeing her boyfriend, the one she was cheating with when this started. I have no direction. A very important member of my family is no longer in my life. And what should have been the happiest time of my life has been spent making sure my family is okay. I've been laid off for almost 2 weeks. I can barely get out of bed to do the dishes. I could be spending this time doing things I enjoy, but they just don't feel enjoyable anymore. Every day I just feel tired and on edge. Story 53. Cheating wife, divorce, bankruptcy, layoff notice, car crash that left me disabled, all within 10 years. I'm tired. I'm numb to everything. I just don't care anymore. Story 54. Letting others' thoughts or feelings taint the things that made me happy, along with emotionally exploitative managers. I'm in a much better space now. It's hard to restart some of those meaningful hobbies or interests without a vague sense of shame or judgment hanging over them. Story 55. The death of my fiancée, the loss of my home, and then finding out all the women who I thought were my friends really are not. Let's go. 2025. Story 56. Constant failure at achieving goals. Being taken advantage of by so-called friends. Story 57. I got left in my marriage because my husband wanted to be with someone way younger than half his age. I lost everything, including my health insurance. The damage is not reparable. You don't recover from that. Story 58. Treatment-resistant major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder. I have nothing to live for. I told my therapist today I can't do this anymore. They didn't know what to say. On top of all this, I've finally forced myself to start accepting that the love of my life is not coming back. That part hurts worse than anything else, and it has hurt every single day for nearly 20 months. Story 59. A never-ending chronic illness with no known name, cause, or cure. Now I've got 3. They just keep piling up. Imiscia. Story 60. Life kept handing me tragedy over the course of a year, drowning me slowly with no respite to come up for air. It's not like the universe lets up on you when you need a break and can barely take any more hardship. The crushing stress and sadness of surviving day to day has now become normal, where the thought of thriving even momentarily sounds like a pipe dream. Story 61. My 46-year-old husband with a colorectal cancer diagnosis. I get it. I'm required to be the strong one, and I am. But in the end, I couldn't care less anymore. Taking care of him, working, raising our almost 22-year-old son who really doesn't have a chance, absent both of our deaths and what we leave behind. Spark, gone. Story 62. I was kind of born without one. I've never really had any dreams or aspirations. Story 63. Absolutely everyone in my life failed to be there for me when I had severe postpartum anxiety. Some people didn't understand. Some people told me I was a failure when I went to them for a scrap of help. I got help from the police and medical professionals. Sparing the details, we're all safe now, but I don't trust a fucking soul since. There's been a lot of therapy. The spark is gone. Story 64. I'm going through a divorce. Not just losing the love of my life and my best friend, but also my dog, my home, my insurance, and dropping out of school. Basically everything. Now I just have me and my cat. Story 65. Time has taken everything from me, so gradually that I didn't even notice myself becoming uninterested in the things I used to enjoy. Now all I want is to be left alone. Years of medication and all kinds of therapy have done nothing for me. Life isn't for everyone, and it definitely isn't for me. Story 66. A narcissistic situationship. One of the roughest, most heartbreaking things I've ever had to go through. Story 67. Grief. I've bounced back a few times, after losing each of my parents. But losing my brother last year really knocked me on my ass, especially after getting clean from using drugs to numb my previously unprocessed grief. I'm still fucking in the hole, and it's been almost a year, but the spark I was working so hard to get back was gone once he died. I'm just clean now and feel dead inside most days. Living the dream. Story 68. After a 43-year career in information technology, I just couldn't face another technology revolution after leading the charge on all the previous ones. Plus, cybersecurity sucks all the energy and money from making IT more useful for people. So after winding things down, I retired, looking for a new spark in something totally different. Story 69. Getting sober. I haven't smoked weed or done any drugs in 3 years. Raw dogging life really sucks. Story 70. I decided to go to the store late at night to buy snacks. I was in my late teens, after having a very positive and enjoyable chat with my friend online. We were planning a get-together for a convention, and I was looking forward to it. The person I was back then, happy, hopeful, positive, never came home that night. I don't know why exactly, but after that night, I was hit with severe depression out of nowhere. And since I quickly learned helplessness, I never got treated. Whenever I reached out or tried therapy, it never worked or I was dismissed. I withdrew, and it turned out that when I don't call people, they don't call back. Then I had a few breakdowns and withdrew further. There was a lot of scorn aimed at me for suddenly going all sad, and I even lashed out to the point that now I actually do have something to cry about. It's been a long time since then, and then burnout started. In short, severe depression. Story 71. I was discarded from my engagement without any conversation or explanation. It gutted me, and I'm still trying to find my new self. Story 72. I'm getting divorced from the love of my life because she cheated, and I'm not trying with her again. Story 73. A traumatic event that led to ostracization and harassment, which then led to depression. Story 74. I was in a job that went from stressful to very stressful to untenable and highly toxic over a few years. I feel like the living embodiment of the frog in the pot metaphor. I've had harder times in my life, but they were not as stealthy or drawn out. Now I'm 6 months removed and in a better place, but still don't feel like I've gotten myself back. Working on it. Story 75. This is so funny. At work, my 2 work besties have been saying, "Oh no, Elle lost her sparkle," every couple of hours when I hit a low again. Frankly, it was a bad relationship for 2 years, a big move to a new city, tried dating after a year without anything physical, and initiated intimacy which went poorly. Now food tastes bad and I'm still just as busy. Just no fuel to help me out. I did find that cottage cheese and sautéed veggies are palatable, so maybe I'll get my sparkle back. Story 76. Undiagnosed ADHD, 40 kilograms of weight gain, and a boyfriend who cheated on me at least 5 times in 6 years. Happy to report that my ADHD is diagnosed and medicated. I lost all the weight and got rid of the prick. I wouldn't say my spark is completely back yet, but there's definitely a glowing ember at least. Story 77. Losing our baby at 20 weeks. Holding her in my arms, knowing it was the first and last time. That was 3 years ago. I haven't been the same since, and I doubt I ever will. Story 78. My brother killed himself, and then 6 months later my estranged twin flame died from an overdose. And my alcoholic husband keeps lying to me about being sober. I'm tired. Story 79. For context, I was a severely handicapped special education teacher. I gave everything I possibly could to my job for 6 years, only for my bosses to give me absolutely no recognition and actively try to replace me with someone on a J-1 visa because they cost half as much. I gave my heart and soul to them, and the entire time they were actively looking for ways to get rid of me. Beyond that, just seeing how selfish the entire system is. The only thing people care about is what you will do for them. Administrators give no support. They just want you to make their jobs easier. Parents don't care. They just want free babysitting. No one honestly cares how good your lessons are. Just make sure no one gets hurt. Story 80. I'm just more interested in ways I can get it back. Half my life has passed me by, and I'm worried I'm going to spend the rest of it like this. Story 81. 10 years and 2 breakups plus 3 chronic illnesses later. No one seems to understand. All they do is judge. Story 82. Every single time something even a little bit good happens to me, something horrible happens. About to graduate high school, mom dies. Starting to cope with it, grandma dies. Then the other grandma dies, grandpa dies, cousins die, uncles die. So much death. Got a job promotion, got laid off 6 months later. Moved in with a friend, depression hit hard out of nowhere. Met the love of my life, lost all my friends. Got my dream job, turned out to be hell. Got laid off again. Maybe it's me? I don't know, but I'm tired. Story 83. I spent several years essentially running my mentor's business while they gallivanted across the country. I dealt with constant short staffing and high turnover. The owner effectively had a policy of hiring anyone with a pulse, which did more harm than good. For the sake of efficiency, processes were simplified, optimized, and refined so we could operate a manpower-inefficient and manpower-intensive operation. I simplified what most similar businesses expect in 6 months into something functional in 1 to 2 weeks. What others would expect in a year to become competent, I achieved in a month. It was stressful, but coworkers were happy. Clients were happy. Everyone got to go home on time. However, their lifestyle outgrew the business revenue. $7,000 margaritas are a drain on the account. Then they shifted focus back to the business, went back to their old policies, and everything tanked. They made the offhand comment that I was intentionally sabotaging their business, despite regularly telling them what we were doing and operating that way for years. It gave me pause to reevaluate things. I genuinely enjoyed giving 100% of my effort and pride to my work, but realized it wasn't appreciated, it was criticized. I found I got the same enjoyment from giving 25% effort with 0 care or pride. A personality flaw of mine is that I'm extremely petty while being excessively patient. As such, I've shifted all work I'm not contractually obligated to do onto those who should be doing it. Given the constantly shifting business policies, I've kept a running notebook of their changes. When adhering to their strict rules, the business can quickly get a month behind in just a few short days. The owner is obviously aware. They know they cannot fire me because I'm doing exactly what's laid out in my employment contract. If they fire me, their good employees will leave in short order due to the excess workload, leaving a bunch of incompetent staff they hired. They also know I have a dozen places willing to hire me on the spot. The owner has been regularly asked and has obliged to rent me out to their friends to run things for periods of time. Word has gotten out about that. Story 84. I watched my dad die. He was the man who raised me, but not my biological father. I lived with him almost my entire childhood into my late 20s, with a few gaps in between. He died slowly over the span of a year. One day he texted me, "I look like Homer Simpson." Suddenly, he was yellow like a highlighter. The moment I came home and saw what color he was, I just knew we were headed for the end. My 61-year-old father went from 12-hour overnight shifts working on heavy equipment to bedbound in a hospital within 2 months. I would do it all again for him, but it was incredibly hard for me. Despite being almost 20 years younger than my oldest sisters, his other children, most of his financial affairs became mine to handle. I never want to see another piece of paperwork or medical bill again. State disability is bullshit, and they fight you every step of the way. Employers do not give a fuck about you. It was heartbreaking to learn these things. We wanted to try every last thing we could to keep him alive, but that meant watching him waste away. Shortly before he died, a doctor told him, "Sir, you are making your family suffer." That sucked the spark out of me. I easily spent $1,000 on hospital food and hundreds of hours crying in hospital hallways. He was in hospitals all over the place, so I put 20,000 miles on my car in under a year. He died roughly a year ago. I was there till the very last moment. My sister opened one of the last medical bills he got. His insurance was billed $5 million over the course of all his hospital stays that year. I'm trying to get it back, but something inside of me feels fizzled out. Feels like I am haunted. It happened all at once, and then slowly and eventually it ended. Story 85. Having kids, especially having multiple ones, takes everything from you. So I recommend making that your thing before doing it. Story 86. My heart dog died unexpectedly from kidney cancer. She was only 7. She was the sweetest soul. The joy of my life left me. Every day, I'm apathetic and don't know what the point is. I'm not a religious or spiritual person, so it's hard for me to imagine I'll see her again, but I hope I'm surprised and we're reunited when I pass. Story 87. Both my parents have died. I'm on the other side of the world in Australia, trapped in a work-sponsored job for my visa that's slowly becoming unfulfilling. I'm not sure whether to call it quits and close this chapter. It's a constant battle in my head. I have a wonderful boyfriend of 6 months, whom I love dearly, and that's the silver lining for me at the moment. But 95% of my time, I'm depressed and alone. Story 88. When you date the wrong person for too long, you begin to believe the horrible things they tell you about yourself, even when you know intellectually that they are wrong. Your inner saboteur just clings to those words, and they become your unintentional mantra. Story 89. Sustaining an injury 17 years ago that has led to constant chronic pain. In the dick. Story 90. Severe workplace burnout that turned into severe social anxiety. Trying to reignite that spark every day. Story 91. I counseled kids for years in a lockdown dual diagnosis treatment center. I helped save thousands but lost some too. My amazing mom recently passed away. My American tax dollars went toward committing a genocide. Epstein Files. There is no spark anymore. Just rage. Story 92. Chronic illness, built-up stress, and becoming disenchanted with a city and field I used to be passionate about. I pursued something else that made me more stressed and caused more flare-ups. I'm lucky in many ways, but I know I've lost the spark I once had. The worst part is, I've accepted that this is the real me, and as good as it's going to get. Working on it. Story 93. When my father died 3 years ago, to this day I can't find my spark again. And just recently my sister died too. Story 94. I don't think I ever had one. The good news is that makes me a great trauma scrub. Story 95. Breakup and realizing my ex love-bombed me, only to end up using me for sex. Chronic illness. My body and skin suddenly aging extremely fast, and losing my hair. It feels like I'm losing parts of my identity one by one, like some cruel joke the universe is playing at my expense. I'm merely in my mid-20s, and in 1 year it looks like I aged 10 years. Doctors gaslight me, telling me it's all in my head, while I barely recognize myself in the mirror anymore. And I'm presenting physical symptoms too that make my day-to-day life a living hell. Honestly, it doesn't feel like it'll ever get better when the people you're supposed to trust and who are supposed to help you all end up sweeping your existence and discomfort under the rug just to save themselves the trouble. At this point, I keep going out of spite. Oh, also childhood trauma resurfacing, and finally accepting it and starting to process it only decades later. It really messes with you when you have adult responsibilities and you can't afford to break down and stop working because you have nowhere to go and must pay rent and eat somehow. And that whole journey of realization was triggered by how I was physically attacked by a family member recently, in my own room. And the cops didn't believe me despite the evidence of struggle and injury.
Also, due to that traumatic experience, I have consistently had nightmares every day for half a year now. I started dissociating, which never happened before. I dislike people, mostly strangers, standing behind me, and I have become slightly agoraphobic because of everything. So going outside became a full-on challenge.
Story 96. High school teachers focusing on the worst students who assaulted me, instead of helping the students who wanted to learn. Story 97. Living with a mentally unstable and neglectful mother. Thankfully, I no longer live with her and am trying to heal. Story 98. Possibly some very early childhood illnesses that nobody at the time realized would make me a very fearful and hesitant little kid. It was like a kind of background anxiety that my young self could not properly articulate the depths of to my parents. Outwardly, it presented as shyness and fear of trying new things. It gradually built up with the pressures of high school until it collapsed in on itself around age 17 and morphed into the general depression that has been with me for most of my life. It hurts to think about it. Story 99. Chronic illness and compounding complications as I'm getting older. And so far, the things I'm experiencing are on the milder side. I fortunately still have feeling in my toes and feet. My eyes have no signs of retinopathy. All of that is fine. But nobody can explain why I'm just so in pain and exhausted all the time. I just don't see a realistic way out. There aren't cures for my medical conditions, only management. In the last 5 years or so, I've also been diagnosed with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, as well as autism, which explains a lot. But again, these conditions and symptoms are significantly worse now than they were in my 20s. And I'm just finding it a struggle to live. To wake up in the morning and get out of bed is a feat. I wake up already tired and aching, and that's the best I'll feel all day. It'll get worse as I get more tired. I suspect me/CFS, myalgic encephalomyelitis/chronic fatigue syndrome, but a diagnosis is hard to get. And surprise, no cure, only managing the effort and energy you expend. So when people say, just hold on, it gets better, maybe for you it can and will, but I just foresee a slow descent, dragging me kicking and screaming, nails dug into the floor, trying to just make it another day. But I don't know. Holding on is harder and harder. And I'm weaker and weaker the longer I sustain in this half-alive misery. And I don't know how to leave it. Story 100. Repeated job losses. And the knowledge that a whole chunk of this country gleefully voted for a bully and narcissistic bastard. Story 101. I wish I knew. I was a go-getter all through high school and then kind of flamed out in college. It might have been habitual weed smoking starting about midway through sophomore year, but that might have been a coping mechanism for trying to understand why I had lost the spark. The depression diagnosis came a couple of years later, so that factors in, and throw in probably undiagnosed attention deficit disorder or maybe even bipolar. I can get by half-assing it, and I have done objectively well for myself over the last about 25 years, but sometimes I wish I cared a little more, applied myself a little more, and actually felt driven to do more than just get by. Oh well. Story 102. Loneliness. I guess there was just nobody left by the time I got my shit together. And now I'm so awfully equipped when it comes to meeting people and making friends that it's just easier to coast by on my own until probably one day I won't even care enough anymore to do even that. Story 103. Depression and anxiety due to a combination of family issues, burnout, and poor friendship decisions. It was a cycle of my mental health getting worse, which caused worse life outcomes, which made my mental health even worse, and so on over a period of years, and me not addressing it. I'm doing a lot better now, and I have moments where I feel sparky, slow and steady. Story 104. Losing the job that I loved, lack of support, lack of intimacy, overwhelm, burnout, constant letdowns, exhaustion, depression. Take your pick. Story 105. Failed relationships, one after another, regardless of how much effort I put in. Being stuck in a dead-end job as a flat-rate automotive technician. Parents' health quickly declining. Fighting type 1 diabetes for over 30 years. Safe to say it's gone, regardless of the best friends anyone could ask for. Story 106. After over a decade of cancer treatments robbing me of my 20s, the highs are few and far between. Story 107. Realizing that no matter how much time you spend with someone, you never truly know them completely, and some people are truly surprising. They show you and tell you a story, and then they end up being everything they criticized or claimed not to be. I can't stand fakeness. Story 108. Monotonous job. Growing up in the 1990s with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder has not been kind to me. Still waiting for diagnosis and treatment. Can't get on the housing ladder. Can't get a girlfriend because I still live at home in my 30s. Ain't nobody paying £1,000 per calendar month for a one-bedroom flat. Oh, I can realistically only afford a house with double the spending power. Yeah, society really sucks. Story 109. Being beaten down emotionally by classmates, parents, and family. Being told I was too much, too loud, too emotional, too happy. It truly took until I met my husband to start shining again. Not because he magically fixed everything, but because I had a safe space to feel again. Story 110. In the span of 2 months, my sister was killed, and a tube in my head burst open, leaving me debilitated and unable to do most of the things I loved and built my entire life and career around. I've been pretty miserable ever since.